Hi, I'm Dennis from Plain Truth Ministry. Welcome to Friday in the Word. I've been working on my new book, which will look into both of Paul's letters to Timothy. And today I want to look at a section at the end of chapter 4 where Paul is instructing Timothy in his faith as he becomes leader of the church at Ephesus. Paul knew that Timothy was chronologically younger than many of the elders that he would lead, and that might become an issue. But Paul also knew the strength of Timothy's faith, and that from a maturity standpoint, Timothy would have been in the faith longer than most of the elders that he would serve. And this was a way that he could overcome the youth and be respected. We're going to start chapter 4, verse 14, where Paul says, Do not neglect the faith, do not neglect the gift that is in you, which was given to you by prophecy, with the laying on of hands of the eldership. Meditate on these things, give yourself entirely to them, that your progress may be evident to all. Take heed to yourself and to the doctrine. Continue in them, for in doing this, you will save both yourself and those who hear you. As I said, Paul is giving Timothy instruction on what he needs to do to be an effective leader under the circumstances. As I've written, Paul continues the instruction by telling Timothy to become completely immersed in the faith and everything associated with it. The goal for him here, and for us if we take on Timothy for ourselves, is that if we immerse ourselves, it makes ourselves and our faith one to the point where we don't even have to pause to consider what we're going to say or what actions we're going to take. For Timothy, in doing this, any doubt about his ability to lead would disappear. As Paul says, that your progress may be evident to all. As I was writing, I was reminded of an old movie from 1984 starring Clint Eastwood called Firefox. In the movie, Eastwood played a retired fighter pilot who was brought back into the fold to steal an advanced Russian fighter aircraft. He agreed to do the job, but as he worked into the job, what he found out was one of the things about the fighter plane that made it unusual and created the necessity for a specific person to go and steal it was that the fighter was controlled, all of the commands were controlled by thought. And all of the commands were controlled by thought in Russian. So, Eastwood's character, who had a great knowledge of Russian culture, spoke Russian fluently, was chosen for the job. However, even though Eastwood spoke Russian fluently, he thought in English, his native tongue. What he had to do was condition his mind to think in Russian so that he could steal the plane. He had to become completely immersed, completely Russian, to have any hope to steal this plane. Well, as most espionage and other movies like this do, Eastwood got into the plane, started off fine, but then when the Russians found out that the plane was gone and started coming after him, he began to panic, and instead of thinking in Russian and piloting the plane in that way, he made the mistake of thinking in English. However, as most of these movies do, he was able to overcome that panic and begin to think in Russian again, and was able to successfully steal the plane. Total immersion. That's what Paul is asking Timothy to do, to leave no doubt of who you are and what you are, top to bottom, inside and out. every piece of your being, in Timothy's case, is a believer in Christ who can lead the church effectively because he has become one with his faith, and that's who he is. Have a great day, and God bless.